Good afternoon, notaries. Hello, Jennifer. Thanks everyone for being here on your lunch hour. Jennifer's got a session around pro trust and the accounting, creating your own master document. So lots of opportunity for Q&A at the end if you've got questions. Galina, I saw your note. Absolutely, I can connect you with Jennifer via email, so I will do that offline afterwards. And just to note, Diane Durham, our partner, will be at our conference in Vancouver, April 11 to 13 at the Vancouver Marriott Pinnacle. So hopefully you're registered. Would love to see you all in person. Just a plug for the upcoming conference, almost a month away. I don't think I'm missing any other housekeeping notes, Jennifer, so I will pass it over to you. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you so much, Trista. Good afternoon, notaries. Thank you so much for having me and for joining today. Today, I thought that we would run something like a little bit of an advanced fundamental class touching on the Pro Trust as well as how to create a very simple master document for yourself. There's a few other things that I'm going to go over today just to sort of help you in your workflows to make things maybe a little bit quicker with respect to using some of our integrations as well as creating groups of documents and just some general housekeeping for Pro Trust. So without further ado, I'll get started. And we'll start with the Pro Trust component. Just as some housekeeping for Pro Trust, it's always a good idea to ensure that everybody goes into their user tab, who is going to be receiving in funds and requisitioning checks, and ensuring that we've got our sort of file matter PTT EFT check type checked off, as well as sometimes we change up our computers and our OCR fonts are not installed. And if you're unable to get a hold of myself or CSC, there is a nice sort of workaround for you. If you are ever in a little bit of a funk where you maybe have changed over to a new PC and you really need to get your checks done and you're noticing that your fonts are not producing correctly, there is a nice little tab down here called Install OCR Fonts. What this will do is temporarily install those fonts so that you can produce your checks. I notice from time to time that unfortunately I haven't been able to get to you in due time, and people are really needing to get their checks out. They're closing, especially when it's month end, and perhaps maybe their fonts are not producing correctly. So just come in here, install those fonts temporarily to produce those ProTrust checks. And then, of course, once you log out, the fonts will disappear. And until I can install them permanently or train you on how to do that permanently, then you'll need to come back in here and click Install OCR Fonts. And that will allow those fonts to produce correctly on those produced checks. Okay, so just one other thing. Another thing that I notice from time to time is that often it could be TD that is now maybe sending out notices saying that they are requiring specific numbers to be added into the account numbers. So I have seen a little bit of correspondence and have been assisting in that way in the past several months. A way to get into that bank account is exactly just what I did. You're going to choose the TD Bank on the left-hand side, flyout wheel, go into the bank contact card, open it up, go into the details, and here is where you're going to make those changes if required. And if you receive correspondence from the lender, the bank, asking you to revise how your account, transit, and institution are portrayed on those checks. Now, if they're asking for that number to be placed in front of the account number, you can do so by putting in that number, and then please put in that equal sign if necessary to ensure proper spacing for those OCR fonts. Okay, so I have noticed that some of the banks are asking for this now, and if you are having troubles then and you can't get a hold of me, please go ahead and go into your banking contact with the correspondence from the bank and add in the appropriate number that you need to for the ProTrust. Okay, I'll just cancel out of here, and I'll properly save it just after. Okay, so let's jump ahead a little bit as well into our file matter for today. For any of you that are using ProTrust or maybe just starting out using ProTrust, I have a file that I have created and imported some data to. And I thought that what we would do is sort of go through the proper way of receiving in funds and requisitioning those checks on a day-to-day workflow basis. So after we have our data that has been entered into our file, we've got our land value that has been entered in, we have calculated the gross amount of property transfer tax. We've got our taxes and commissions that are in here as well. So we're all fairly ready to go. Our account has also been included. What we can do here is if we still need to tidy up our account is sort of maybe go into our fees and either remove and update our account as necessary. It's always a good idea before we requisition anything is to ensure that we have everything is correct and we're ready to go before we start to requisition checks, of course, because as we all know, if we're making changes within our adjustments or our accounts or anything, what that will do is automatically void the already checks that we may have created. So the other thing that we may want to do here is add any kind of extra adjustments before we're getting ready to requisition those checks as well. So here, if we have, let's just take this and maybe add in a quick standard adjustment, maybe for a move-in fee. So we could do that. And the payee will be the strata plan. So we'll just look it up for training purposes. We'll look up one of our strata plans and we will just add that in. Let's do a $200 move-in fee. So we will be debiting this from the buyer and requisitioning a check here as well. So just making sure that everything is complete. I always really like to go into that in-out trust rec, especially if you're brand new to ProTrust. Run the in-out trust off so that you have those totals of your excess deposit coming in, the balance that's required to complete in draft form from the clients, and then of course the advance of mortgage proceeds that are also coming in. So it's always a good idea to sort of run this off because we want to sort of mirror what is happening in our bank as well as what is happening in our ProTrust file. So let's go ahead and head over to our trust tab, and we can see that we are going to be receiving the excess deposit from the realtor. The balance required to complete from our client is the 252 and the 600,000 that's coming in for our advance from RBC. So we'll go over to the trust tab, and this is where we're going to start to receipt that in. Now, at first glance, I can see that there hasn't been a trust account that has been assigned here in this case. Sometimes we are using multiple trust accounts to requisition checks. If you aren't, and you're just going to be using one trust account, it's always a good idea to go to that general tab and just default that particular trust account for yourself here. So it will sort of help you with your workflows as well. It is going to help you with your just being more accurate, not having to sort of choose the trust account each time. So we default the trust account. And then when we come here, we can see that we have that trust account that has been defaulted. So we no longer need to worry about where are we receiving in funds and where are we requisitioning our checks from. So we can start with our excess deposit, and we may be depositing it into the bank today, but likely not. So we're completing today. So let's say that we actually received our excess deposit back in February. Okay, and so it actually went into the bank in February as well. Okay, and you'll notice what's going to happen here. So we want to be sort of exact. We received a check and the deposit amount was $32,335. And we always want to put a description so that when we're running our reports at the end of the month, we don't sort of have these sort of blank holes to say like, oh, where did we receive this money from? So this would be excess deposit from brokerage, realtor. You can certainly put the check number in. That's always very helpful. And then you're going to put the brokerage name in here. So perhaps it's Remax. Where did it come from? You can look up Remax, make sure that that's in there, and then click save. Okay, so we can see that it's automatically going to default back to the day that I have actually made this entry, which is completely fine. So I'm just showing you because often from time to time I get questions quite a bit saying, how come this is reverting back? And it's because it's an auditable program. So we're actually making the entry today, but we actually put this money in the bank in February, the excess deposit. So therefore, it's going to reflect for our February month-end reconciliation. And this is where we want things to really be the same as in your bank, as it is in ProTrust, to ensure that you're reconciling properly and without error. Okay, so the $32,335 is actually going to be part of February's month end, even though we are closing in March. And then we're going to click on new so that we can add our second receipt. Okay, so the next receipt is our client funds. So our client would have brought in a bank draft. Okay, really important as we go through self audits and audits from different sources. Quite often, what we're seeing is that source of funds and where they're coming from is really important. So we want to ensure that we're creating the right deposit type as well. So we also received $252,273. Okay, so this would be closing funds. Whoops. From client. Again, you can certainly record the bank receipt number or whatever you need there, and you can put in from client here. Okay, or you can look up and create a new contact for the client. Sometimes when we have multiple buyers, I find as well, it can be frustrating that it will not bring in the actual client. Okay, and then again, we want to make sure that when did we actually receive these funds from the client? So we're closing today, but when did the client come in to sign? Let's say that they came in to sign on the 3rd and we went in and we made that deposit on March 3rd. Now, I know it doesn't really make a huge difference, March 3rd to March 5th. Some people like to run their accounting systems well as long as it went in during that month. And that's completely fine. It's just that I like to do the exact date so that I know if there's an issue, I know the date that I'm looking at in my bank statement. It just makes it a lot easier to find any kind of errors. Okay, and so the third deposit is actually going to be a wire transfer, I guess we'll call that, because it's an advance coming in from RBC of $600,000. Okay, and this will be coming in on our completion date on the 1st or on the 5th. So we'll call this advance of mortgage proceeds. Okay, and this is coming from RBC. Okay. And again, this contact is incorrect. It should be a banking contact. So that is not correct. We want to always make sure we have the most up-to-date contacts and what those contacts are, whether they're individual, bank, lenders, it makes a difference. Okay, so now that we have all 3 of our receipts in, again, it's a good idea to go back and check. So in here for our in and out rec, we can see that the amount of funds that we brought in are 884, 640, 30. So let's make sure that we have the exact amount in here. And I believe that we are missing, let me just go back. 252, 305, 30. 252, 305, 30. Okay, sorry about that. And that's why we always like to run it off and check. Don't go by to your memory. So 884, 640, 30. Going back, we want to check our trust in and out, 884, 640, 30. So now we can see that we are balancing with our in and out and our trust in and out. Okay, so that is the first step to ensure that everything is correct. It's also been receipted into the correct bank. So we have defaulted our bank and we've deposited everything into that bank. And now we can go ahead and requisition those checks throughout our file matter. So we would just come here, click on the click on the three dots and click OK. So here, these funds are coming out. This is our EFT for property transfer tax, and we're going to click OK and save. Okay. Next would be if you were in a sale file, your charges removed. This is certainly where you would be able to pay out that mortgage as well. So we'll just skip over here, over to taxes and commissions. We've got our commissions here. So let's grab that check for Remax for the $7,000. And again, we just want to make sure that everything is correct before we go ahead and requisition those checks. Okay, so survey and title insurance, that if we had ordered our title insurance, that would already be done. So we will skip by that. Let's just do a few here. So our check for ourselves out of trust. There's our account. Okay, and we'll go into adjustments and maybe do a couple more from here. So certainly you may be making a payment for the monthly maintenance fee or the move-in fee. And certainly they usually like to have separate checks for that. So for me, I would go ahead and grab a separate check rather than sort of putting them all together. If you are doing estimated stratiform fees here, I would absolutely wait until you know exactly what it is that you're going to be providing rather than grabbing a check and then making changes and voiding that check. Okay, so this is just simply how we're coming along and requisitioning those checks. If you have a holdback or anything like that in these adjustments, just going back to this, just to point out, if you were holding back funds, whether in buyers or sellers, it's a good idea to maybe not requisition that check until it's time to actually provide funds. So if you've held back $1,000 with respect to a special meter read, and you know that you're going to be providing a portion of the funds back to the client or the city of Richmond or whatever you need to do, I would wait until you actually have notice that you can release that kind of a holdback before I make a check. Because sometimes we've got checks that we are requisitioning for holdbacks, but actually it takes a lot longer than we assume to be able to release that holdback, and then we're running into potential stale dated checks. So it's always really good to just come here and just see what do we have left to provide back to the client and make a manual check. Okay, so it's always good to do that. Let's just go back into seller's adjustments and get our check from here to provide to the other side. Perfect. Okay, so going back into trust, we can see that our checks that we have requisitioned are all here. The next step is to absolutely go ahead and generate your checks. Okay, so you want to go ahead, go into your checks, and as well as you should be always running a check register as well. So do your trust checks and your trust register. So generate and clear will allow you to look for another document. So let's do that check register. Oops. And generate and close. Oh, it doesn't look like it. We'll go back and generate that. Okay, so we can see that I have been able to generate my checks. It looks like my fonts are producing correctly. I'm happy with the checks that have come out. I want to print these checks off. I can also save them to my drive if I feel like it, and if that's what I want to do. And then the proper thing to do, actually, if you are in charge of posting your own checks, is to go back in and get those checks posted. Okay, especially if you do have residual funds that you need to provide for a holdback later. What this does is it prevents the check from generating again, and it prevents you having to make any kind of other errors or anything like that. It's a really good idea to just go ahead and post the check the day that you issue the check. And what will happen is it will say, once created, the attributes of your check will not be editable. So review and confirm. Are you sure we want to create? And yes, I do. And then we can see that a cash will appear as well as that holdback. Okay. Now, another thing you can do if you are creating holdback checks is you can actually apply like a holdback calendar as well, so that you can choose the month that you actually want those funds to be provided into that month end reconciliation. And if you need a little bit more training on that, let me know, because I find that sometimes with the holdback calendar, it can prevent people from reconciling properly. And there's just a few little tweaks that we need to do to ensure with training. Okay, so you can go ahead here and post each of these checks that have been issued for the date that you have requisitioned them. And then what we're left with is the cash. Now, the other area that you can go in and post, if you're an admin or perhaps the notary that is taking care of that, is in that trust center under posting and clearing, which is another great way to post and clear. If you are working within the file matter, it's really simple just to come here and go ahead and post those checks so that they are not going to be requisitioned again. So you can go ahead and post, and then they're basically just done. And this is sort of how we want to always encourage ProTrust users to treat your files. Really good idea if you are sort of prepping your files and you have 5 or 10 files that are closing maybe in the few days. Feel free to set those files up. But please remember, if you are unticking that reconciled area, to please make sure that you are reconciling those receipts. So they default as reconciled. And what that is telling you is we've received the funds and we've deposited the funds. If you are setting up your files and you are choosing to uncheck the reconciled receipt, please ensure that you are clicking reconciled once those funds have hit the bank. Okay, so I understand when we have multiple closings, we want to get our file set up completely. It's fine. It's just make sure that everything is set up and those date and time deposited amounts and dates are correct. Okay, so therefore you'll have just an easier time when you get to the month end with much less to do. If things are already posted, it'll be really, and at any time in the month you can actually go in and make changes to the cash date as well. Like maybe you're somebody that really likes to look online at your trust account, which is a good idea, throughout the month, and just say, oh, this one cleared, and get that cashed. And then there's much less to do. You're more up to date at the end of the month, and you can reconcile a little bit quicker with a lot more simple workflows, rather than running these huge long reports that have thousands and thousands or hundreds and hundreds of checks in them. Okay. And this is, of course, in a perfect world, but for everybody that is already ProTrust users for many, many years, I'm sure this might seem a little bit redundant, but for those of you that are fairly brand new, this is sort of the way that we want to always ensure that our files are set up correctly, and just best practice for running ProTrust. Okay, so that's just a simple sort of reminder on ProTrust. For the other part of our advanced fundamentals today, I thought it would be kind of neat to just go over some of our documents where you can choose to make small changes to a document and learn how to create your own master and upload it. So again, what we can do is go into a purchase file if we want to create a master document for our purchase files. If we are looking to create a master coded document for a sale file, then please make sure that we're going into that sale file to retrieve that document, and so on and so forth for the mortgage and the family transfer. Now, we definitely don't expect you to start learning how to code. I'm just talking with respect to maybe a Word document that you may have that you would like available in your ProSuite that might not be in your ProSuite now, and you know that you're going to be manually manipulating it and it isn't a coded document. Or perhaps what it is just a simple change that you need made to maybe your engagement letter. So in order to do that, you're going to go into the actual file matter that you want to create the master for. And it doesn't mean that it's only going to be available in this one file. It will be available for all of your purchase files, of course, but we want to get the appropriate document out that you want to master if it's going to be for a purchase. So we'll go into Generate Documents. And just so you know, under this client tab here, if you have any master documents already, generally this is where you're going to find them. Okay. We used to place them into the purchase group, and they still may very well land there as well. But if you're looking for a complete list of your masters, they'll be under that yellow client tab. Okay. So here, what we're going to do is just pick up a letter of engagement. So there's our letter to buyer re-engagement. We want to tick it off. And now instead of generating it, what we want to do is actually download the document outside of the program. So we're essentially getting our global precedent and we're going to download it. And we're actually going to be saving it into a master document folder, or whatever you want to send it to. I've got like a master document folder here. So here I would say, here's masters. I've actually already provided one today just as an example. But a letter to buyer engagement, what I want to do is sort of rename my document. So we want to take the numbers out of it. You can certainly rename it and add another word if you like. What we prefer is that you just put some brackets and maybe your firm name. So this could be Notary Lunch and Learn. I've already got one already done. And then I'm going to save the document into that folder. Okay. And so now what I've done is I've taken a global, I've removed it from the system, and I've saved it either to my drive or to my master's folder. And then what I want to do is sort of open up that document and make changes to the document. Perhaps if it's just wording. So I'm letting you know that, I'm not showing you today how to code documents. That would be something else. These are just to make simple little changes or to upload Word versions of documents that maybe you already have that are not coded. So they would just be Word documents that you'd like to have available in your ProSuite. So what I've gone ahead and done today is we've just highlighted the taxes and bolded them out. So this would be something that would be simple. We're not sort of going around any of the coding because the coding is very delicate. So we don't want to start removing stop codes or any brackets or anything like that. But if you wanted to sort of make changes to some of the wording in a paragraph, so here the taxes, this is a perfect example of something that you could make changes to here where you're not upsetting any of the actual coded portions of the document. Okay, so this is something that we would work on for you. And of course, if you ever want to submit masters, I'm going to actually show you how to do that today as well. This is just a little exercise in advanced ProSuite to show you that you actually can make a change and make your own little master, provided that you don't sort of mess around with the coding. Okay, so we've got this document. I've already made changes to it in this one right here today. So I made changes to this earlier where I just simply said, oh, I want to bold out and underline the taxes portion. Okay, so I've made my document. So basically I've saved it. And what I want to do now is I want to actually upload the document to be available in my purchase files. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just simply go to upload, and I'm going to choose the template. So these are already master documents that I have coded for specific offices across BC. So yours will not look like this, okay, unless you're already doing master coding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to then choose the template. Okay, so I'm going to choose the template. I'll go to my masters. Okay, and I will choose that. Okay, so I've chosen my document. I don't want to upload it to the firm level yet. I want to just upload it to myself so that I can test it. So that's very important as well. So it's a purchase document. I'm uploading it as a user so I can test to make sure that it's fine. And then I'm just going to click save. So I'm now bringing my newly changed master document back into ProSuite. Is letting me know that it has been uploaded successfully. And now I can go in and I can see it's down here and it's up to user. Okay. And then what I want to do now is go into client, click refresh, and look for the letter. Yours will not look like this. There's a lot of them in here, but I can pick it out right away. So there it is. So there's the letter to buyer engagement. I want to generate it to ensure that it is not going to corrupt. There's that check register. And look at my newly created master document. My taxes should be all bolded out, and there they are over here. Okay, so what I've done is I've created a simple little master. I've made a couple little changes, and then I've re-uploaded so that I have my new firm specific document available in my purchase file, as well as our global from ProSuite. Okay, so are there any questions at all about the master document or about ProTrust? I'll let you guys know also that anytime that anybody can't get a hold of myself, or I know sometimes CSC is also very busy, if you need to upload a master document request, you can simply come here to Help Center, Master Document Request, and you can ask us to create you a new master document. Please make sure that you have the Word version to attach with all the changes and then highlight it in yellow for all the changes that you want, and then submit it to our document services team. This is another way for you to request master documents. They will want you to fill out a few prompts, but it takes about 5 minutes, and you just attach the Word version of your document, make sure all the changes are already made and highlighted in yellow, and they will get back to you within a couple of weeks and provide you with that master. Okay. I can open anything up for questions now, if anybody's interested. Hi, Trista.
I guess it would help if I unmuted myself. Apologies as I'm yammering away over here. Sorry, notary. Sorry, Jennifer. It's been a day. Um, Thank you for that great presentation. We have some thank yous. I did give your email out, so you may get some direct questions. I'm not
Sure.
sure if you can see the Q&A, Jennifer. I've got one from Reg. I'm just not clear how important it is to get. Is it a type of ink, micro ink? I find it
Oh,
hard to
yes.
source. Yeah.
It's the magnetic toner. So that's a great question. Over the years, I've had this question more often than not. The magnetic toner tends to be a little bit more expensive, but it does last for quite some time. We also used to have the Hewlett Packard printer that we had to have to print out with the magnetic toner. And now there is actually much more advancements in printers. So more often than not, printers can handle that magnetic toner. And we do like to still train to tell you guys that, yes, please get the magnetic toner, just because that's the way that the bank is picking up with their scanning. So I'm not sure if some people are not using the magnetic toner. Maybe they are not using it and it's working for them, but we still do train that, yes, it is very important to get the magnetic toner. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Jennifer. And do you have a recommendation as to a supplier for checks?
I do have a few recommendations, absolutely. So, if you want to just send me your email, I can get in touch with you and help you out with that. Absolutely. I would love to see the ProTrust checks come back myself. They are great quality checks. And unfortunately, during COVID, we had to stop that and it didn't seem to start back up again. So, it would be wonderful to see ProTrust checks make a comeback. They were great checks and they were very reasonable as well. But other than that, I do have a few different spots that you can order checks from. So I'm more than happy to reply in an email for anybody and everybody that would like to look at that. So if I could get your email, then I will respond to that and get in touch with you.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. Notaries, I just put Jennifer's email into the chat box, so you can grab that in there, or feel free to call or email me after the session at any point. I can put you in touch with Jennifer as well.
Absolutely.
And then just a question here asking if they need to order completely blank checks.
Yes, you do. You do need to order completely blank checks, just because what happens is the way that the checks produce, and again, I have had questions about how come my name is not producing correctly onto the checks. If you are finding you have issues, please go into the My Firm tab, double click on your notary firm, ensure that everything is correct, because actually what is happening is we are pulling the data straight from the My Firm tab onto your trust checks. So it comes from the My Firm tab and it also comes from your trust tab and in your details for your bank. So that's where it's also pulling from. But the name on the check is definitely pulling from this My Firm tab. So if you're running into issues, make sure to check the notary firm contact card as well as your practitioner contact card. Okay.
Okay,
Really,
amazing.
really important. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you, Jennifer. I don't see any more questions. Any last comments from you, Jennifer, before I wrap it up?
Um, if if anybody is interested, I'm still teaching those monthly webinars. So there is always a morning class and an afternoon class. And the morning class tends to go almost 2 hours long. If you have new conveyancers joining or junior conveyancers that want to refresh in a full file matter training class on ProSuite, the morning class, we go over the entire program. We go through a full purchase and mortgage file. We go through web forms, generating documents. The afternoon class is focused on ProTrust and creating contact cards, managing documents, creating groups of documents. So that ongoing webinar is still going on. There's actually two, an intro class and another class on in the afternoon. They are always free. Anybody is welcome to join. So If you do need to have some of your staff members join, or somebody just needs a refresh, or maybe you have a receptionist that's just learning, and you think that the class will be beneficial, I'm more than happy to host anybody to these webinars. Yeah, they're a way to sort of capture a broad audience. And I like to have an interactive session where people can ask lots of questions. Yeah, so the classes, they're every once a month on Wednesdays in the morning at 10 a.m. and again at 2 o'clock. So you can find, if anybody wants to get my Calendly link for these free webinars, please send me an email.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you, Jennifer. And again, notaries, the email is in the chat box, so grab it there or just get in touch with me and I can provide it for you. Thanks, as always, for your time, Jennifer, and for the partnership with Dye & Durham. We appreciate everything you do and look forward to seeing everyone at the conference in April in Vancouver. Have a nice
Yeah,
afternoon, everyone.
I look forward to it too. Thank you so much,
Amazing.
Trista. Thank you
Thanks,
everyone for
everyone.
having me. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.